Alright, hey gamers. Got a request to make a video on Twirlies, so here we are. So the first thing to understand about Twirlies is it's an inherently really inconsistent trick. I could talk to you for hours trying to explain to you how it works, but it's still a subframe perfect input and a frame perfect input. So you kind of just have to try for it until it happens, which involves spinning into a wall for a long time like an idiot, but it's kind of the best you can do. But still, understanding how it works is really important, and it'll also help you if you're making a LOTAD or something and you want to do a bunch of twirlies. This will tell you the most efficient way to do that. So anyway, a replay showing what a twirly actually is. Basically, it's a way of breaking the way the game checks for wall runs, and it lets you infinitely chain wall runs together. So first I'll just show it off. Doing a bunch of wall runs in a row, going all the way up there. So anyway, normally whenever you do a wall run in Dustforce, first of all, this flag right here, last wall run, pay attention to that. Whenever you start a wall run, this flag gets set to 1. And normally it's at 0, so as you can see it's at 0, and then I start a wall run, and it gets set to 1. And basically this flag, whenever it is not 0, it tells the game, hey, this player has already done a wall run, and thus don't let him do another one unless they do something to change his flag. So if I try to grab a wall again, it just ain't happening. I don't get a wall climb out of it. But if I do a jump, then this flag gets set back to 0. And there's a few more things that'll set this flag to 0. But jumping's one of them, and as you can see now, I can do wall climbs is fine. But now I can't, because the flag is 1 again. So, what Twirlies do is it abuses a bad state transition that just happens to set this flag back to 0. And I'm not really sure why this happens, but hey, it's useful. So, first of all, the states that occur whenever you do a wall run. If you look, I start a wall run, and I go into a state. Wall run, aptly named. So anyway, this state happens for a really long time, happens for the entire wall run, but as soon as it ends, you go into wall grab idle. And it's this state where you kind of slide down, and as you can see, the state goes on forever as long as you're on a wall. You can see that thing on the state timer ticking up forever. But whenever you release a wall and then grab it again, you get put into the state wall grab, and this state happens for a few frames, and whenever this state runs out, you get put back into wall grab idle. So as you can see, wall grab idle. And what twirlies do is if you release a wall at the exact subframe that this state transitions to wall grab idle, then for whatever reason, once again, not really sure why, your last wall run flag gets set back to 0, and you can do another wall run. So as you can see, this frame, it's set to 1, but now I frame advance and hold away from the wall, and bam, it gets set back to 0. And now, if I hold back into the wall, I get a twirly. So to show that again, I'm in wall run, now I'm in wall grab idle, but I want to get into wall grab, so I have to release the wall and hold back into it. And now I'm in state wall grab, and advance a few frames until the subframe before it transitions into wall grab idle, release the wall, and hold back in and get a twirly. So the problem is, and what makes this subframe perfect, is that this transition, like I said, you have to release the wall into the exact subframe this transition happens, but sometimes that's impossible depending on the subframe you grab the wall. And since there's 5 subframes in a frame, you can kind of say it's like a 1 in 5 chance that you grab the wall in the proper subframe. Of course, that depends on your movement, and there's consistent movement you can do to always grab the wall in that subframe, but that means you have to consistently do frame perfect inputs to get back into the wall, which is something you can't really viably do as a human. So anyway, just to show this off, if I release away from the wall for a little bit and then I hold back in, my state timer right now is at 0.120 out of 2. And if you were really observant earlier, you would have noticed that whenever the first frame I was grabbing the wall before, I'd be at 0 out of 2, not 0.120. So the problem with this is, as I slide down the wall and I get to a frame before this transition happens, if I release the wall now, then the transition will actually never happen, because I release the wall before that transition happens. Like, that sounds kind of obvious, but basically with subframes, that's just the way it works out. So anyway, if I advance another frame, then here you can see the transition has actually happened. And if I release the wall now, then I still don't get a twirly. My last wall run flag is still set to 1. Alright, sorry for the awkward cut, but I thought of another thing to add real fast. So one thing I hear a lot of people say is like, oh, well, twirling feels different between like different characters, which is actually true. It depends on how characters like move through the air. Like, each character has a slightly different value. It's another complex thing that I won't go super into, but just know each character has a different value for that. So that affects like how long it takes for you to grab back into the wall whenever you release it. So therefore, that'll change. Like, for Kid, the easy setup to get a twirly is whenever you want to get this wall grab state on the perfect subframe, you just release away from the wall for 1 frame, and then you just hold back into the wall. And that'll perfectly, every single time, line up your subframes to be at 0 out of 2, which means you can do the subframe perfect transition. But if you do that as like worth or something, let's put them over here. There we go. Climb up. Alright, if I hold away from the wall for 1 frame, then I hold back in, well, as you can see, it doesn't quite work out for worth. But what does work for worth, and this isn't human viable, this is just a task way of doing it, but just to show it off. I believe it's 1 frame away, 2 frames to the right, 1 frame in neutral, and then keep holding. Yeah, do that. It's 1 frame away, 2 frames in, 1 frame neutral, then just hold back into the wall. Of course, once again, that isn't human viable, but if you're making a low tab, that's the best way of doing a twirly for worth. But the Kid one is actually more or less human viable, I would say. This probably isn't a setup you get every single time you get a twirly, but I would say a lot of the time it probably is. And once again, all that is hold away from the wall for 1 frame, then immediately in the next frame, hold back in. And once again, state timer 0.2, added 2. I advanced 1 frame forward, so it's 0.2 off, but look, see, release. I got a twirly. See, told you. So yeah, with all that in mind, the last thing I'll say, I guess, is with all this information, now you know that whenever you're doing twirlies, I see a lot of people do this. Whenever they go for a twirly, they just mash into a wall over and over again with like no rhyme or reason. And you have to, once again, you have to be holding into that wall for long enough for the state transition to happen. So if like I'm just immediately releasing the wall as soon as I grab it, I'm never holding onto the wall for long enough for states to transition. So I can do this all day and I'll never get a twirly. So yeah, don't do that or else you won't get twirlies. And I assume you want to get twirlies. But yeah, thanks for watching. Feel free to suggest whatever to talk about. I'm bored, so I'll talk about whatever.